The Garou arc in One Punch Man is finally coming to an end after 7 years. Now I know that some people have a problem with the length of this arc, just talking about the actual time. 7 years is a long time for any arc. But at the same time, I definitely don't have a problem with it. Personally, I said this in my top 20 manga video, but these mangaka should have more time to craft these stories anyway. And especially when something releases consistently like One Punch Man and with chapters as great as One Punch Man. So I think that the 7-year wait is more than worth it. So I absolutely have no problem with this whole format, this release schedule. But of course, given that this is the Garou arc, I have to talk about Garou first. Without a doubt, the best antagonist to actually come out of this series. And he has fantastic dynamics with at least a couple of characters, Metal Bat specifically, and of course, more importantly, Saitama. And then you add on the goofy concept for his origin story, and then it's that makes him such a fantastic foil to a character like Saitama. Plus, Garou did one thing that no real character has done in the entire series, and that's actually make One Punch Man mad. So let's go ahead and jump over to talking about Saitama for a second, because I feel like in this arc his character, while of course staying consistent, his character has gone through more significant changes than really any other arc in the series. We see Saitama at probably the most serious he has ever been, leading directly into a pretty insane fight where he doesn't really keep that seriousness the entire time, but there's one panel specifically that just looks incredible in terms of just showing Saitama's rage. And then, as far as I know, there hasn't been any significant changes in Saitama's powers for the entirety of the manga up until this arc, where he has some pretty significant changes. Mainly Garou teaching him a technique which basically allows him to go back in time and basically stop the fight with Garou before it really even gets started. But it's pretty wild to think about the fact that One Punch Man really hasn't had any significant changes in his character until this arc specifically. And it's not just the character work for those two that's fantastic. In this arc we get to see characters that we know and already like, that are already pre-established. We get to see them keep moving forward. Characters like Tatsumaki, Genos, specifically those two, and how they've kind of grown together has been pretty satisfying to see, especially with one of their big boss fights. And then of course characters like Metal Bat and Zombie Man, who haven't really had huge opportunities to shine before, given a pretty significant role in this arc. And then outside the realm of just character writing, there's the actual conflict in the story. This arc's a bit multifaceted. There's a couple of storylines going on at the same time. There's the growing problem of extremely powerful monsters, and that's one of the things that's addressed here. And I'm not gonna lie, this is definitely the lesser interesting storyline to really be present in this arc. And of these new big monsters that are supposed to be super powerful, there's no really interesting antagonists among them. To put it very bluntly, I couldn't remember a single one of these villains' names just off the top of my head, and they serve their role in basically a pretty perfect way. They're just there to create interesting scenarios and fights, and I think that they did that 100%. And on the opposite end of that is the Garou storyline, which is the focal point of this entire arc. But I've basically said everything about that aspect of the arc, just talking about Garou's character. And then hitting on this last point really quickly, it's the whole mystery aspect with this evil entity that gave Garou his powers, or at least the powers that gave him the capability of keeping up with Saitama for even a little bit. And I think he's more directly involved with Saitama. He's trying to actively go against our protagonist and not really so much the hero association. I mean, that could be kind of like a side goal, but I do think he's more or less focused on opposing Saitama. And I think if we ever get an explanation on the origin for One Punch Man's powers and abilities, it's going to be basically through him. But yeah, that's going to be pretty much it. Check out the socials in the description below. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'm out.